What's up, guys? Welcome back to Rip City Rundown. We've got another episode of the Rip City Rundown podcast today for you. And as you saw by the title of the video, we're going to be going over the possible players that the Blazers could bring in this offseason, really focusing on the guys that have been rumored to the team, all the high-level talent that has been rumored over the last couple of weeks. We've already talked about some of them, but we've had some new rumors recently. So we're going to keep it a little shorter today, and we are going to just review and go over the fits and if we want them on the team. So how you guys feeling since the last podcast? I mean, got some new rumors for the Blazers.
Yeah, it's been a lot of new rumors for sure. I feel like every time I look at the news, there's a new player who the Blazers are linked to. And I don't know how true these rumors are, but one thing's for sure, the Blazers are going to be aggressive in the offseason. And I think as a Blazer fan, this is a very exciting time. I think we kind of suffered a little bit not going to the postseason for the first time, but it's created a more compelling offseason with like actually trying to change the core of the team like for good this time and actually chasing a star or a better player than what we're used to at least.
Yep. I'm excited as well going to the season or into the offseason. The pot will be stirred once again. It's been stirred last year and the year before that and the year before that. Unfortunately, not the roles we wanted, but we got another role, so let's do it again. Let's get a 6.
Yeah, so the first one we'll talk about here is one we haven't touched on at all because it came out just a couple of days ago from Kevin O'Connor of The Ringer. He reported that the Trailblazers have identified Washington's Bradley Beal and Chicago's Zach LaVine as potential targets for the Blazers. We talked about Zach LaVine a little bit. West, you said that you think Zach LaVine is just what Anthony Simons is going to be within the next couple of years. But Bradley Beal is interesting because he's kind of been known as one of the better point guards in the entire league, shooting guards in the entire league for the past couple of years. And the Blazers would have 3 ways to acquire him. The first one would be if Beal picks up his player option worth $36 million, the Blazers would have to straight up trade for him, which would require picks, a bunch of young talent, probably not an avenue the Blazers want to go down. If he opts out of his player option, the Blazers could either sign him outright, which would be a max contract around $190 million, so you're paying him a lot of money, or a sign and trade, which again, you're trading assets. So what are your thoughts on Bradley Beal to the Blazers?
So, of course, we need to give Bradley Beal his flowers. He is one of the best guards in the league. And this is what I'm about to say is going to not take away anything from his skill. I'm just concerned because you're basically just getting a better version of CJ. And it's less about what Bradley Beal can do, and it's more about I think the Blazers need to change kind of the framework and the roster construction of the team where maybe your second best player behind Dame is an impact forward and not another guard, because we've seen what 2 guards who don't necessarily play good defense will do to a team. You can have a top 5 rated offense, and then you get to the postseason and you're letting Aaron Gordon just splash it from downtown. That's not a recipe for success, nor will you ever win a championship that way. So I love Bradley Beal as a player. I just don't know if he fits well with the team right now.
Yeah. He's 6'3"?
Yeah, he's
probably under.
Guard. He's
probably
literally
under.
McCollum.
He's got a bag though. He's got a bag.
Yeah, I mean, I remember seeing him. He was the scoring leader at one point, I think 2 years ago, something like that. So, awesome player, like I said, but probably is not going to fit with this team. I mean, we've seen it so many times. The guard lineup not working. Defense is what we need, and he doesn't bring that compared to the other players that are in the trade rumors. It's basically just a CJ McCollum. I'm not going to say he's peaked. He is 28 though. He reminds me of CJ kind of on where he's at in his career in a way. Really effective, but probably not going to get much better from here. Yeah. Maybe going down from here, but the biggest thing is just no defense, no size, and that's what we need, especially if we're going to keep Simons. If we're going to get rid of Simons, then sure, but if we're keeping him, no reason in having three what's a small animal? 3 ants out there.
Oh, I get it, Anthony.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think another thing that you could talk about though is apparently Dame and Bradley Beal are good friends. So
did he play on the Team USA team?
I'm not sure my reasoning and my evidence for what I just said was honestly it was Dame's rap that he did when he name dropped Bradley Beal in his little freestyle he did, and he was me and Bradley Beal are tight pretty much, and that's great and all, but I don't know. I need someone who's going to fit. And I'd be willing to take a player who may not be as talented as Bradley Beal, like a 3 or 4. He may not be as like an OG on Anunoby, for example.
Yeah, let's go ahead and jump into that because I think that's the one that's caught the eye of most Blazer fans because he fits perfectly into that role of the 3-and-D wing, the guy that brings size, still a little young, and would literally fit perfectly with Damian Lillard and Anthony Simons. And that's OG Anunoby. That would require trade, would definitely require the 7th pick. I've seen some mocks that say 7th pick and little, which is something that I'm kind of on the fence of. I think it's an interesting avenue. Anunoby showed a lot at the end of the year last year. I think he averaged somewhat like 16 or 17 points.
17.
And that was as basically like the 4th option on a Raptors team that just had a bunch of guys that were averaging anywhere between 15 and 20 points. But he's still just 24. I forget about that. He's been in the league for like 6 years, but I think that's a guy that the Blazers should definitely be looking at getting it.
Yes, and I think if you're the Blazers, you can't be – if he was genuinely available, you can't shy away from like, oh, we don't want to give up the 7th and little. Like, I would listen to that offer for a long time and really contemplate that because that's – if it gets you an OG Anunoby, I think you got to swing. And that's what, Joe Cronin in the front office has been preaching is we're going to swing this offseason. And in my opinion, if you had like a graph of like fit for the team and just straight up talent, I think OG's like your best bet here because he's a 3. He basically plays on the wing. He's young. He's athletic. He plays defense, and he can go get you a bucket too. Like he's not like Andre Roberson where he's just corner threes here. Like he can get you a bucket or 2, but he also brings that critical defense because if you're the Blazers, your avenue to a championship is you got to surround Dame with 4+ defenders because Dame's just not a plus defender. So
yeah, there was actually a video of, I don't know if it was like a front office member or a coach of the Raptors today, and he was getting interviewed, and they were talking about OG Anunoby and stuff. And I don't know if this was a Blazers reporter, but someone asked me, he was like, so would you do 7 for him? And he was just like, oh, I don't know. I don't want to go down that avenue. But like, it was just interesting because like they're already putting it in their mind that the Blazers want to get him by throwing out that the Blazers are willing to trade the 7th pick. So I thought that was interesting. I mean, I really like it. I think it's one of the more likely scenarios that the Blazers have this offseason is going after him.
Yeah,
Yep.
I mean, I don't know though. I haven't really heard any like grumblings out of Toronto that he like doesn't want to be there. It's just like a strictly basketball move or something. Because like I don't know.
It's less grumbling from Toronto and more like front office members around the league are like, I think OG Anunoby could be available at the right price and stuff like that. Not as open as say a Jeremy Grant or maybe a DeAndre Ayton, but not untradeable by any means.
But that's the thing is like OG Anunoby, DeAndre Ayton, like those are the type of players you're willing to give up the 7th pick for. Like, I'll honestly be a little disappointed if the Blazers get Jeremy Grant but have to give up the 7th pick. Because quite frankly, Jeremy Grant is not worth the 7th pick in the draft. Like I'm just sorry. This dude's value is so inflated. Like he just all he did was become the number 1 option on arguably the worst team in the league. Like he was a role player pretty much in Denver, and he was good. Like he's very valuable to a team, but I don't know. It'd just be like, I don't want to compare him to other players, but it's just like a role player, and he just goes to another team to become a star, but that team is really bad. Like someone has to score the ball in Detroit. I mean, come on.
Yeah. Would you guys think getting OG and Jeremy Grant would be because like I feel like they're both similar players, same height, same age, kind of same weight in a way. They're kind of built the same. I feel like OG is kind of just a younger version of Jeremy Grant, but you again don't want to invest too much in one over the other. So do you think they would fit well together? And if they do you think we should go for both of them? Because you want a lot of two-way players. I mean, look at the Celtics in the finals. I feel like Marcus Smart and everyone, Jaylen Brown, they have similar play styles in a way, and they're in the finals.
Yep. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'll take OG Anunoby and Jeremy Grant. I was just saying I'd be disappointed if it was only Jeremy Grant and we overpaid for him. Like if it was only Jeremy Grant, we overpaid for him, I'd be upset. But if it's like Jeremy Grant and OG, that's all of a sudden you got Dame, Simons, OG, Jeremy Grant, and probably Nurk at that point, assuming he comes back. Center's position is a little clouded right now, but we're assuming Nurk. That's a squad right there. And you brought up a good point about like two-way players. You obviously need those. Like I said, with Dame being a negative defender already, and he's getting older. Like you're gonna have to start surrounding Dame with like actual defensive talent and not just like a Robert Covington.
Yeah, I think the best blueprint is a Chris Paul, Devin Booker. Like they're both. Chris Paul obviously has been a good defender in the past, but with his age, he's regressing a tad. And then Booker's obviously not the best defender in the league by any means. He's definitely below average, but they surrounded him or them with above average, if not elite defenders. And not only is that just good to have those elite defenders, it also rubs off on your guards that they start playing a little more defense. So I think an OG Anunoby and Jeremy Grant move would be interesting because that would mean you're giving up a 7th pick and maybe something else for OG, and then you're probably giving up another first and like, I don't know, another more salary, like Eric Bledsoe, a 2025 first, and like Keon Johnson for Jeremy Grant. So it's definitely something that could definitely happen in my opinion.
Who is the next player?
The next player I want to bring up, we've talked about him a little bit, but it's DeAndre Ayton. And these rumors have significantly increased since the last time we talked because Ayton has kind of said, and his agent is like, they don't really want to be in Phoenix. And
surprises me.
All the talk is he's going to be on a different team next year. The question is, what team is that going to be? We're still to find that out, but that would be, I think, the biggest move the Blazers could do based on just age and like potential.
I think it's important that if you go with DeAndre Ayton, you still got to bring defense on wings because Ayton's not going to play perimeter defense. I mean, look at the Jazz. They have Gobert, who is great defender, but can't play perimeter defense and got torched by Lucas. So, yeah.
That's a good point.
You got to bring defense elsewhere other than centers. I just hope if we acquire him, we don't play, all right, we got some great defense, now we can get some guards. But obviously an amazing perimeter, or not an amazing perimeter, paint defender and a young center in the making of becoming maybe top 5 center.
Yeah, I think DeAndre Ayton is the prize player in this class. I know he's not. Is he technically a free agent here?
He's restricted.
Restricted.
I think most likely scenario would be sign and trade though.
Yes, but he is probably the best player that is most likely to become available. I'm not going to say he's necessarily 100% available yet, but all rumors, all signs are pointing to him becoming available. So I think if you're the Blazers again, you got to swing, go get him. But like Cody, you said, if you're the Blazers, you can't go get Ayton and be like, all right, we're done here because you got to revamp this. And I'm not saying you have to go get like all-stars at all 5 spots. Like go like as much as I clown on Jay Crowder, if Jay Crowder started for the Blazers next year, I would not be mad. It just can't. I'm sorry. Just respectfully, it can't be CJ Ellaby. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So, got Josh Hart off the bench, or Josh Hart could start.
I wanted to. You mentioned Josh Hart, and I wanted to mention something because there was an article that came out from Hoops Hype, and it ranked like all players in the league based on trade value, and 3 of the Blazers were like on the list. The highest of the Blazers was obviously Simons, then the second highest was Hart, and third highest was Nurkic. And they mentioned an interesting thing about Hart, and they said that Hart could very likely be on the move again due to the fact that his salary is so team friendly that he could be like the centerpiece for the Blazers trading wise, like as a contract, because he makes, I think it's $12 million a year. And I think he's got 1 more year left on his contract, and he fits perfectly. If we were to go get that star player, that's going to cost like 25 to 30 million. We put his 12 million along with our trade exception, which is 18 million. And you've already basically covered the financial requirements. So I thought that was interesting because I really like Josh Hart on this team, and I would rather see him stay, but he could be the key piece to bring in a guy of star.
Yeah,
like star
I think Josh Hart, if he's the one required to go to get an OG, a DeAndre Ayton, you do that for the Blazers. You got to use your resources. Now, you don't want to do something stupid and trade him for Miles Bridges. I would not trade Josh Hart for Miles Bridges. I know. Maybe some people would. I wouldn't. I would prefer to have Josh Hart on the team, but again, in order to get a good player, you have to give up value too. And he has, like you said, some of the best value in the league. I mean, I didn't think this dude was a scorer, and then he was dropping like 40 plus for us.
Yeah, averaged like 20 for the Blazers this year.
Yeah. I always knew him as like a, very opportunistic player. He run in transition, very good rebounder, good team player. Like he just does all the little things very well. And he started dropping like 40. I was like, this dude's actually good. So if you have to get rid of him, I understand.
I mean, that's at the end of the day, one of these guys that we're talking about, whether it's Nurkic, Hart, or Little, or like
Nurk surprises me that he's on there a little bit. He's young. I keep forgetting he's so young.
Yeah, but we're going to see one of these guys go. It's not like we're going to bring in all these players and have the same roster. So it's just a matter of how many go and who it is. And another interesting thing is Trendon Watford tweeted. He tweets, "Never knew finding a house in PDX would be this tough." And Nurkic responds, and he goes, "I might sell my house soon," with 2 eyes emojis. And that got people stirring a little bit because it's like, is he buying a new house because he's about to get a new bigger contract with the Blazers, or is he buying a new or selling his house because he's leaving Portland? Nurk always plays around like that, but
Nurk's on Twitter. Nurk's always on Twitter, clapping back at people and just stirring the pot. It's really funny.
He's got them Twitter fingers.
Yeah. The final player I want to discuss is, you mentioned him already with Josh Hart, but Miles Bridges is the final guy that has kind of been rumored to the Blazers. He would be restricted free agency, probably going to get a big contract with Charlotte. It's just if the Blazers do a sign and trade or just outright sign him without Charlotte matching. He averaged like 20 points last year, but you said you would rather have Josh Hart than Miles Bridges. Miles Bridges is more of an offensive player than a defensive player, but I would say he is probably an average defender. He also is a rapper, so maybe he could do some songs with Dame if he came to Portland. You got any thoughts on Miles Bridges to Portland?
No thoughts on the rapping side of things, but that would be cool. In terms of basketball, after some thought, I would give more consideration to a Josh Hart for Miles Bridges. Miles Bridges is underrated in my opinion. I think because his offense was so good this year, people were just like automatically assumed he just sucked at defense.
Oh, yeah. Not true. Not true at all.
Yeah, he's an average defender. And if you're a very good offensive player, an average defender, you're an above average player here. Like if we're just going off that logic. Yeah. I think he'd be a good addition to the team. Again, it's just my problem is our 3 and 4 spot position wise in Portland have never been scoring heavy because we've had Dame and now we have Simons. And so I just think if you bring in a guy who is just gives all his effort and all his value on the offensive end, like we don't necessarily, I mean, we do need offense from the 3 and 4, obviously, but just historically we've been very guard heavy in terms of scoring. So it's just interesting that way.
I would be okay with acquiring Bridges as long as we had defensive focused other players. So if it was Dame, Simons, and then Bridges, just the other 2 would have to be solid defensive players. And a lot of people forget, like, this guy's big. Like, he's 6'7", and he's pretty athletic too for his moves. You saw his dunk he did this year against Posterize. I don't know who it was. I just remember their announcer's reaction. He's iconic, obviously, but yeah, degrading announcers if he came here. No, just kidding. I like our announcer, but and he's young. He's 24. He doesn't get me as excited as like an Anunoby type player, but I feel like I want him more than, I guess, Bradley Beal, if that makes sense, just because of the size.
Yeah. You know what, Bradley, this is the last thing I'll say about just the players in general. Bradley Beal, that whole like rumor just kind of just feels a little forced. I don't know. Like,
kind of out of nowhere.
It might be true. It kind of came out of nowhere. Just like, I almost feel like we're like the Lakers here and we're just dropping every name under the sun and we're being like, oh, Lakers are going to get this guy and this guy and this guy to play with LeBron. And, I don't know. The Bradley Beal one feels a little forced because, like, Bradley Beal's been rumored to a lot of teams. I don't know how genuine this one is.
It could be just Cronin's just making a bunch of calls.
I mean, he's probably inquiring about people, or Cronin's just putting that out on purpose to the media to be like, yeah, the Blazers are here to play, as I'm a little lagging.
No, you're not lagging. It was just a text. check your phone. Final thing I want to talk about, we'll finish up here real quick, is we mentioned in our own video, but I don't know if you saw the news, Cody. The Phil Knight offer to buy the Blazers, CEO of Nike, trying to get it from Jody Allen along with a Dodgers assistant or co-owner. So that would obviously be a big move for the Blazers. If you want news about that, go watch our video on our channel. Me and Wes did a breakdown of that news. So I think we're going to wrap it up here, though. Final thing, rank the players in order of who you would want the most. Don't even consider like how much you would have to give up. Just if you wanted them in your starting lineup next year.
Easy, top of my head, we got OG and then Jimmy Grant. I'd say OG, then Jimmy Grant. Then I'm going to go Bridges, then Levine. I know we didn't talk about Levine in this video. Or I'll say Levine, then Bridges. Sorry.
Ayton?
Sorry about that one. Sometimes, man, sometimes. All right.
Yeah, it's
We'll
Ayton?
say 8 and 3. We'll say 8 and 3.
Okay, fair.
And I'm not saying
Ayton's 2 or
he's
3.
I'm not
I
saying
think
he's
OG's number
better.
1.
I'm just saying value for our team. It's gonna go OG, Jimmy Grant, Ayton, or OG, Ayton, Jimmy Grant, then Levine, Beal. In my opinion, that's me.
I think I'd agree.
I'll go Ayton first. I think that's a huge upgrade over Nurk. So I'll go Ayton, OG, Jeremy Grant, Levine, Beal, Bridges. I know I named a few extra, but basically OG or DeAndre Ayton would be a home run in my
I
opinion.
think those are definitely top 2, and then Jeremy Grant's probably the third.
Jeremy Grant's in there. He's just been rumored for so long. So you're just like, you got to throw him in there.
So I hope you enjoyed it, guys. Make sure to subscribe, and we'll see you in the next podcast episode. Peace.